Oh. Just chop my head off. Hello. Look who I have.
Hey, it's a Chloe and a Nan.
There,
Casey in the corner.
Casey's in the corner.
Oh dear.
This is always a good start. Today we're chatting about faking and different systems and how they view faking and how they feel about faking and
Well,
all that jazz.
Fine.
well,
To feel like you're faking.
Yeah.
I mean,
not fine.
denial is a
No.
big old thing that happens. It's like part of the disorder in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard. I mean, everyone with DID is different, and so it's very, very easy to tell yourself, oh, I don't match up to them, and so I must be faking. Or, I have memories of this, but not memories of that, so I must be faking. Or...
Their switches look different to my switches, so I must be faking.
Yeah.
These two people switch more often than me, so I must be faking.
Mhm.
But no.
Like, the whole time I've seen these guys, I haven't switched once. And I've been like, the whole time, as you do. Whereas, Pingat's system has switched a lot, and Chloe's system has switched a medium amount, like golden bears. The three bears. And
The three
golden
bears.
locks. Yay.
I get to be Papa Bear?
Yeah. And you're the little bear.
Yeah.
And I'm Mama Bear.
There you go.
Oh, those are bear
yeah.
ears now.
I'm a burr.
A
A
burr.
burr.
A bar.
I'm a
Belly,
burr. So, like, all of us have reasons where we could be like, hey, this is different. I must be
Mhm.
faking. This must be
Mhm.
wrong. But denial is so common in people with DID because the whole thing about the disorder is it's supposed to be subtle. The person who
Mhm.
has the disorder, who's hosting, who's outermost, is not supposed to know about the disorder because at the beginning, when the disorder is formed, it would be dangerous for them to know. It goes against the whole concept of why DID is made.
Mhm.
So when you do realise you have DID or you are coming to terms with it, it's so common for the brain to go, shit, no way, no, this can't be, that can't
Yep.
be right, because that's how DID works.
Oh,
I just have this
man.
like proper computer image of like DID is invisible, and then like the computer's like, I see that we have now got DID in our system, and then it's like, wait,
No.
broken.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be invisible.
Yeah.
Yep.
Broken.
I remember when, I started coming to terms, like, with my DID, and I, like, realized when Jeremy broke off and started immediately seeking communication. And so I was in such deep denial at that point in time. I was like, I must be so fucked up that I must be faking, but I'm faking subconsciously.
Yeah.
And this is because like even before you have DID, you have this preconceived idea in your head of what DID looks like.
Yeah. What was your first image of, like, what was the first media portrayal of this disorder? Whether it's accurate or not, what was the first kind of image that you guys saw?
Fight Club.
Fight Club. Wow.
Mine was actually a documentary about a lady on YouTube, and I must have been like 15, 16, and that was way before I knew about DID. I wasn't diagnosed, or like, it was suggested to me when I was, I think, 19. So when I saw that, I found it so interesting, and I was like, this is absolutely terrifying. I can't imagine living like that. Can you imagine having that kind of trauma? Because her trauma was like satanic cult abuse, and like it was really intense and stuff like that. And I remember watching it and thinking, Christ, like, that's so interesting, but also, oh my god, I'm so glad nothing like that ever happened to me. And then forgot about it for like another 6 years. And when that was the first thing I thought of when someone said, do you know what DID is? And I said no, and they said, do you know multiple personality disorder? That was the first thing I thought of, and I literally scoffed in her face. And I was like, no I don't. And she was like, well, you should look at it. And I was like, no, I know what multiple personality disorder is. Like, if you're calling it dissociative identity disorder, if it's the same thing, I don't have it. Like, there's not a chance.
My first experience with it, I guess, the first thing I really remember is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So that's a very, I think it's described as split personality throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
And is a good side and a bad side. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Jekyll is a well-renowned doctor and he's very trusted. Mr. Hyde is vicious and evil, and so it's I always grew up with this knowledge that split personality disorder, whatever, meant there was a good and an evil.
Yeah.
And because my main friend as a teenager was Texas, who was a persecutor, I fully believed, shit, I've got an evil side to me that can do harm.
Yeah.
Like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
When I started to know that the voices I was hearing weren't normal voices, and I was becoming aware of like little things like, I can't move my arm, someone is moving my arm. I was so convinced that I was possessed.
Wow, yeah.
I was ringing up helplines and stuff like that and explaining stuff, and they just didn't know what the heck to do because they didn't understand. And I was like convinced. I was like, how long is it going to be before I kill someone?
Yeah.
Like, am I going to be here forever? You know, like, am I going to be taken over? And like, one day they're going to take over my arm, and then one day it's going to be my arm and my chest, and then it's going to be my legs, and then I'm going to be gone, and I'm going to be a murderer. Like,
yeah,
it was scary as heck.
It is scary. It is scary. And even when one like knows in and of themselves that this is DID, like at this point in time in my life, I have no doubt in my mind that I have DID. I've lived with it enough. I've experienced it enough. I've researched it enough. I have been diagnosed, and there's been many professional opinions that are like, this is DID. I still get those thoughts that are like,
yeah, right?
Well,
are you sure?
It's not bad enough, or that trauma is fake. You're not remembering that, right?
Yeah.
And this is kind of a protective mechanism, I think, because if I were to fully accept the memories that come back, sometimes
you have to accept that that trauma happened to you.
And that's hard.
I think that's a big part of accepting that you have DID is the people who go, I don't think I have that, is because, how am I saying this? Because you then have to accept the trauma. You go, oh, I have this, but then they go, yeah, but it needs to be formed because of childhood trauma. And then you go, I don't remember much of my childhood. I don't think I went through anything bad. And then you go, I must have done. Oh God, it's that I must have gone through something bad to have this.
Yeah.
So then you're going, maybe I don't.
Maybe it must be something else.
It must be something else.
Anything else.
And as hosts, it's important that the most traumatic memories are removed from us so we can function and perform everyday life. That's our job as long-term hosts. And so when those memories start coming back, it's innate to go no. Because we still have the job to fucking function in real life.
Yeah. And it's hard to come to terms with that as well. Like, once you come to terms with having DID, you then have to come to terms with what your role is. And you have to change your whole life revolving around that. I mean, I don't know about you, but I know definitely with us, like, we've had really shitty coping mechanisms in the past. And we've not been good at life in the past. And then coming to terms with, just a little bit, coming to terms with DID, and it's like, holy shit, I've got a shit ton of, like, especially for me, it was the littles. I was like, fuck, I need to look after them. And, I want to be the person that I needed when I was younger, because the little girl that was me when I'm younger is fucking right there in the corner of my head, and I'm hurting her, and like shit, like fuck. So it's a lot. So you have to come to terms with your role. You have to come to terms with how your switches look. You have to come to terms with accepting that you are gonna switch, and if you fight it, you're making it harder for yourselves. Nadia says you're saying something about drowning, switching.
Oh yeah, I was trying to describe to Casey what it's like when you don't want to switch, when you're really spaced out and you're scared to switch, and it's like, people are like, why would that be scary? And I said, it's like you're drowning, and the more you drown in the water, it's gonna get more and more difficult. You're gonna struggle even more the more you're in the water. But if you just sink your head under and lift your hand out, someone's going to pull you out. It could be a man, a woman, a child. It could be a good person, a bad person. But they're going to take you out and take your body to safety, or not.
You don't know.
You don't know, but you're not drowning anymore. Yeah. So either you fight there drowning, or you have to just dive in head first, I guess, and let someone else take you, which is also scary.
And you can't fight it forever. Like, if you struggle in that water too long, someone's gonna pull you out because you're drowning.
Forcefully,
yeah. And it's easier to... It's hard to accept a switch. Like, I still find myself blocking people out. And then I'm thinking, like, God, why do I feel so sick? Why do I feel so stressed and tired and, like, ill? And I'm like, crap, I haven't switched in, like, forever. And there's someone there pushing. And I've just been, like, in complete denial. Like, no.
That's me most of the time.
It's hard to admit that you're going to give up control. And so, like, I'm pretty okay with letting Jared switch out. Like, me and Jared can, like, switch no problem. But, like...
Gay.
Sorry. Let's say that, okay, like Shasta, it's hard for me to let Shasta front because I know that he's gonna freak out probably. And I don't trust that. And so if I don't know who I'm gonna be switching out with, like if I can't feel anybody there, I can't tell who's there, then it's fucking scary. You have 15% battery on your phone, by the way.
It's also scary, like, if you have persecutors or you have altars that will harm the body, it's not nice to come back and be in pain or, you know, have new scars on your body. Like, you never know, if I come back, where am I going to be? Am I going to be lost? Is somebody going to spend a load of money? Are people going to think differently of me?
Am I going to have anything in my system that I wouldn't put in myself? Like drink, drugs, alcohol, pain relief, any meds that they might have taken and you don't know.
Yeah. Same with food and stuff like that. Am I going to come back and somebody's been starving the body or crass dieting with the body or, you know, binge eating, you know, anything. You don't have any control over that, and it's really frightening.
It is frightening.
I think lots of my fear with switching comes from a lot as a teenager, me coming back in situations that the persecutor had put me in. Like, I would come back and my hand would just be under the hot tap, and then I'd have a burn on my hand, you know, and it's like I would wake up in these scenarios that I'd be like, oh, I don't like this, I don't like letting myself black out because I wake up and I'm now hurting or something bad is happening to me. So
have you ever had it when you come back to in a group of people and they're just looking at you? Because I hate that. And then you have to try and explain what's happened, but like people just, I remember a lot in high school where me and my friends used to hang out was inside a classroom which was open for like break time, and we'd sort of sit in, like, it was almost like a semicircle because there were desks on each side, and I remember like zoning out, thinking I was zoning out and just being so depressed and thinking I've just zoned out, and then coming back to and they were all looking at me and thinking what like what,
oh my god.
And then I just remember specifically my ex, who was my boyfriend at the time, just looking at me with the most intense, like, disgusted face on him. And
did
like,
they say what happened?
Nope.
Nobody said what happened?
No, I was just like, I remember just saying, I'm really sorry, I just zoned out, did I say something stupid? And they were all like, no, you were just being really weird. And you know, but like they all looked a little bit, there were some of them who were looking quite concerned, like my good friend Mari, and then others who I weren't quite as close with, who were kind of looking like, what the hell is going on, kind of thing. And then there was my boyfriend who just looked like repulsed, like disgusted and repulsed. And it's so many things like that. Like when you go, people are gonna see, if they don't know about your DoD, they're seeing the body, they're seeing you as one person. If you start acting in a way that they don't like or they don't approve of, that's how they're going to see you. And you have no control over it.
I was to say, a little bit lighter example, I remember I came back once. No. It's because like all the examples that come into my brain are really dark, so I'm trying to come up with a better one. I remember I came to once and I was holding pretty much every Disney DVD in Tesco's in numerical order in my hands, like this.
Yeah.
So I couldn't lean forward because they'd all topple forward. I couldn't let go of one hand. I just was stood there like with all of them, and I was just looking around like, what?
Yeah.
In numerical order.
Oh
And
my
then
god.
because they weren't on the shelves in numerical order, I had to go Mulan, Belle, and
Oh
then
my
try and put
God.
them back.
Yeah.
And
Whoa.
no idea. Someone was
It's
clearly
so
going to buy the
weird.
whole Disney collection.
It's weird that you can look back and see stuff and be like, oh, well, looking back, that's so obvious now.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, it's like,
Oh
you
yeah.
literally don't compute.
Fun fact: Casey, my partner, knew I had DAD before I did.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Had met Layla. One night we were at a sleepover and Layla was up till about 4 a.m. chatting to them, and then
That's sweet, though.
called them jury for some reason the whole time, and then was like, I want cake, I want biscuits and cupcakes and cats and all sorts of stuff. And then next morning they were like, you had a really weird night last night, you know, you were talking about cats. I was like, what? No, I didn't. I slept all night. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And they were just like,
No.
Sure.
Oh, God.
so then I met up with Case like years later again, and I was like, oh, I've recently found out I have DID, by the way, multiple personality disorder. And then they were like, I know. I was like, I've only
That's
just
a
found
shock.
out. And they were
That's
like,
a
yeah, I
shock.
know, I've met your alters.
Shit.
So I
They
was
took
just
it
like-
that well, they were just like, oh, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Shit.
A lot of the people from my past were also like, when I said like, hey, yeah, I'm multiple, I got other people in my head, they were like, oh, well, that explains a lot. And like the lady, the landlady that I was living with from the year 2012 to 2015, like, she knew Ace more than she knew me.
Wow.
And so like her and Ace would like just click, get like right on, and I had no idea that Ace knew her so well and she knew Ace so well. But like she could tell me all of these things, and my communication with Ace is shit, so it was it's really interesting.
Lots of people, when I told them, were like, I would have known about that, so I have like the opposite from you guys.
Mm.
But like the more people know, like especially with Mari, like I mentioned
Mhm.
before, she was a really, really close friend of mine, best friend of mine through high school. The more time goes by, every time I see her, she's like, oh, I thought of something that makes sense now. And I didn't realize before, like she can point out things that she remembered at the time thinking, what? And now she's like, oh, well, that was Nadia, and she was talking about this, rather than what I was thinking of Chloe's, for example, family at the time, or something like that. And a lot of my friends, when they meet Nadia, they're like, that's how I remember you being. Like that, this is a person I thought you were, because Nadia was mostly host through high school, who was in charge of, you know, interacting with people and making friends and stuff like that. So a lot of the time it's when people meet other people and they're like, shit, no, I thought that was you, and all my memories are with this other person, so who the hell are you?
Who the hell are you?
Where like Mari and I can't remember who it was, somebody referred to me as being depressed Chloe, whereas
Oh.
Nadia was like friend Chloe, and I was like,
oh, that's great.
Thanks.
Oh, that's great.
Oh,
That's
like,
like
it makes
that's
sense.
bad as well, because if it was like you were known as Chloe, and then say a persecutor alter was known as depressed Chloe, that would have been like a bit better. But the
Yeah.
fact that you yourself was referred to as depressed,
depressed
Chloe,
yeah.
is so bad.
I was
That's
like,
really sad.
that what they knew as me being me was when they thought I was being attention seeking, but I was actually just really fucking depressed. And
Oh.
Nadia was the opposite. Nadia
Mm.
was very like, nothing's gonna bother us. Happy go lucky.
Mhm.
Let's make all the friends. Everything is sunshine and rainbows. And I was like, life. But also, I could fake it too. Like, I never was like, yes, life is terrible and I'm depressed to people externally, but I obviously, in comparison to Nadia, there's a
Mhm.
very big difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like because I wouldn't say that you were a depressed person, but like comparison to Nadia, I feel like anybody would look depressed
Yeah, no,
because of
yeah.
how she is so.
She's very, yeah, she's, yep.
Also, it's like, because like my my brothers, not Chris, but like Mick, had a very similar reaction to like your friends, and so did my mom at first. Like, oh, we would have noticed something, but then they began to go, oh yeah, oh wow,
that makes sense.
yeah,
That makes sense.
oh wow, yeah. Like my mom knew Kit very, very well, and Mom does not get along with Ace or Leslie very well. Shit. But you have to understand that they were also going through their own crap during the time they remember being around you. And so, like, it makes sense that their memories would be unreliable too. That people are generally used to seeing a body and thinking, oh, that body has one name and one consciousness, and so I'm going to trust my eyes on this one. And so unless, like, especially if the person, if the host of that body at the time is in denial about having DID or not knowing that they have DID, then it would make sense that they would also accept one body, one person, and...
I mean, it's not something that's in a lot of people's minds to think of.
Mm-mm.
Oh, someone's acting a little bit different today. You think, oh, maybe something happened to them, or maybe they didn't sleep well, maybe they're in a bad mood. People are fluid. People change over time.
Yeah, they do.
It's not something that everyone's going to have in their heads of, what if this is multiple personalities?
Yeah.
Oh my god! You
Yeah.
know, like, people are just going to take it at face value, like you said.
Like, a lot of times, like, when I've had, like, a flashback in the middle of AA, I'm like, oh, I'm not allowed to say I'm in AA. In the middle of a meeting, and like a little has come out, a lot of people have thought that I was being like overly dramatic, and then like upon telling them like, no, I don't remember that at all, you must have met like a child, then they're like, oh.
Yeah.
See, when you were talking about parents, it kind of makes me laugh with my parents, is the fact that most of my evidence of it being known in childhood comes from what my family have told me, but they still deny it.
Wow.
So they, like, I have so many memories growing up of my mum being like, why are you talking American? Why are you talking like a baby? Why are you talking like all grumbly today? Like, and just constantly throughout my whole childhood it would be, why are you talking American? Why are you talking like a baby? And then even when, like, she's seen Alta's Facebook pages and things like that, and she's still like, nope. And she was even, when I even mentioned to her, because she knows about the trauma that initially caused my DID, she was like, is it because of that? And I was like, yes. And then she was like, but you were such a lovely child. You had such a lovely childhood. You were so great. And I'm like, that's the point. That's literally the whole point.
That's such a fucking
Oh my god. Also, like, if you think about it, it's really hard to swallow that your child has DID, because that means that while they were responsible for taking care of you when you were a child, something went really wrong a lot.
Yeah.
Because it takes more than one trauma to cause a split.
Yeah.
It's a long-standing thing, and that's a hard thing for a parent to swallow. And so parents who work on swallowing that, props. That's tough. And it's very, very, very important for your own healing and the healing of your child to come to terms with that and to forgive yourself for
whatever happened.
It takes a lot of bravery to look at that.
Yeah, it does.
It's for the best, though. It's really helpful for the person who has DID, for your child, for your children.
Children, I guess. My parents really struggled with that. A lot of the reason why my parents, especially my mother, wants to know what happened and will ask me, like, every time I go to therapy, do you know what happened yet? Do you know what caused this yet? Is because both my parents love me so much, and they want to know what on earth happened. Like, what happened? What did they do wrong? You know, what did they miss? Was there something they could have done to avoid it? You know, stuff like that. And it's difficult to see them kind of suffering, holding that alongside me, because I don't know either. And that's scary, and it's obviously scary for them too.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
something, my dad struggled to swallow it more than my mum did, the coming to terms with DID. And one thing I remember him saying really vividly, that he said a few times actually, that he said, well, this makes sense now and it didn't before, was apparently me saying something, and it was regarding suicide and something to do with how he would feel about it if I killed myself. And I don't remember what I said to him because it wasn't me, but apparently whatever I said shocked him so much that it stayed with him, and he remembered thinking, this isn't my Chloe. And this was before he knew I had DID, before I knew I had DID.
Wow.
I'm thinking, this is not my daughter, and she would never say something like that. How could she think something like that? That's not my Chloe.
Wow.
And then obviously after coming to terms with that, he said that a few times, of thinking, that makes sense, because I knew that couldn't be you, because you would not do something like that. You could not say something like that to me. And that's one of the things that helped him understand that, no, this is real, because there are differences sometimes. Some alters are gonna pretend to be me. Some alters will make light of things. Other alters are gonna tell you straight to your face how they feel and how they would act in a certain situation. And if you're not prepared for that, it can be like, whoa, that's a big change. So it's going to change from system to system. Not everybody's parents are going to be on board, and I feel really, really lucky that my parents support me as hard as it is. And
I think, a base level when it comes to parents accepting, their kid has this condition is, like you said, is accepting that happened while they were looking after you. Especially, I think my mum still hasn't come to terms with it because she's a single mother. And the trauma happened when I was at a different house while she worked. So she feels very guilty, the fact that she worked, I was away, trauma happened, and she's like, that's my fault. And I'm like, no.
A lot of people think, like, when they hear, oh, it's a childhood trauma disorder, this happens in childhood, a lot of people think abuse by parents. It's not always like that.
Not always.
No, not always. So don't jump to conclusions. Like, obviously sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Just because if you have a child who has DID doesn't necessarily mean that you did something you don't remember that caused it. Something else could have happened. It might have been some other people externally. It could have happened in kindergarten. It could have been anything. But it's really, really important, like Nan said, to accept it, to try and work on it for your healing as well as your child's healing. Because if you're in denial of it, that's going to make it 500 times harder for your child. And the whole thing is difficult. The DID affects way more than just the person who has it. It affects everybody who surrounds them.
Damn.
That's heavy as heck. Fuck.
This was supposed to be about faking, but we've gone on a whole discussion
Tangent.
about everything. But hope you both are okay.
Yeah.
You're
okay. We're all gonna be fine.
Look at this.
Bella Bella.
Right.
Thanks, Bo.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this serious chat about shit. And I'll see you in the next serious chat about shit. Bye.